Welcome to another advanced customer enablement hands-on session. Obviously, you know who I am, Eddie Small, Director of Community here at Domo. I am always, sometimes, and mostly joined by Dan Hendrickson here at Domo. Dan, lots of folks joining us from what I like to say across the globe. We have Australia in the chat. I saw India in the chat. Folks right across the way from you in Utah, lots of folks from Arizona. I am hating these messages from folks in Minnesota and Missouri as well, because it is real cold in Indiana right now. We're in the negatives. My office is at the corner of our house, and I definitely feel the effects of everything that's happening outside. So we're happy everybody's staying warm and trying to keep up with us. Coleman is in Dan's background right now, behind there somewhere. He is at an undisclosed location, possibly in the mountains. So thanks, everybody, for joining. Thanks for letting us know where you're from. Toronto, Canada, Uruguay, Mexico City. This has gone international at this point. I'm just going to leave it be and thank everyone for being with us. Obviously, utilize the chat to continue to chat with each other, to continue to chat with Dan and myself throughout the session. These are really meant to help all of you get as much as you possibly can out of the next hour. In fact, I was telling Dan before we started today's session, this is the easiest hour I have in my schedule, because I get to sit back and learn from him, and I can click all the things. Also, I am rocking a t-shirt. I'm that guy that's, in his mid 40s wearing shorts to the grocery store when it's -2. So I'll continue to be that guy as much as my wife hates it. So thanks for that comment, Brian. Really appreciate it. Teresa, if I move my camera about 90 degrees, I'll point my way towards Indianapolis and have you wave out the window as well. I'm really, really close. All right, Dan, that's enough of that. Let's talk a little bit about what today's session is going to cover. Obviously, we have some links to share. We want you to get your presentation ready to share that as well. But we have an exciting session based off of data, off of images, unstructured data, all kinds of things that are happening inside of what most folks are trying to deal with in Domo. And one of those sessions that I know you've got a lot of passion for, because I think Domo was kind of built for stuff like this. So talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say too, obviously we got Domo Palooza coming up in, what is it, 5 weeks, Eddie? 4 or 5 weeks?
Yeah, 27 days.
27 days. Eddie might be on the marketing team, right? He's got a little more weight on his shoulders related to that, but I've got to keep the powder dry on some Domo Palooza stuff. But know that that AI and unstructured data and a lot of what we're going to talk about today is going to have a big presence at the conference. And so my hope today is that I can get your gears turning, get some wheels in motion, and get you thinking about some of the things you can do. And then you'll just be that much further down the road here in 27 or 28 days when we've got some exciting new additional announcements that go beyond all the really cool real live stuff that I'll show you today.
That's great. Really excited. Obviously, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions, throw them Dan's way. We'll try to get to them as the session is going, but there are just some moments where we just kind of let them wait till the end, just because of where we're at in the presentation. We want to make sure we cover as much as possible. Please make sure you're part of the community. I want you to jump in there and be aware when these sessions are up. We don't have any upcoming sessions to promote right now, as you can imagine. Busy time for all of us folks here at Domo. 27 days until Domo Palooza. Let me say that one more time for folks in the back. Dan, do you want to go ahead and get your screen shared and jump into what comes next here on our advanced customer enablement sessions? If you haven't been a part of these in the past, again, try to follow along best you can with Dan. And as you have questions, be sure to utilize that chat. Again, easiest hour I have. I'm out of here. I'm going to let Dan take over. Thanks again, Dan, for joining.
Thanks, Eddie. Appreciate you, man. And yeah, we've got a few little slides that we'll run through here. I promise I won't bore you guys to death with PowerPoint, but let's talk about unstructured data in Domo. So one thing that I thought was interesting, it depends on which estimate you look at, but estimates show that as much as 80% of an organization's data is made up of unstructured data, right? That's pretty mind-blowing if you think about it. You think about all the data that you're used to sifting through and dealing with every day, and to think that it's, in a lot of cases, really just a small fraction of the data that the organization's got. I'm going to talk to you today about how Domo, our app component framework, our AI tools are meant for this moment and can help you get a ton of mileage out of that. So our agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about what is unstructured data. I'm going to show you some AI-powered solution demonstrations. I've got, I think, 4 that we're going to walk through. We'll talk about some best practices, and I'll show you some, we'll go through some different things live, get you an idea of how to get the most out of this. Talk about some additional use cases, and then go through some takeaways and what's next. So unstructured data, right? What is it? If we think about structured data, right, it's data that we're querying with SQL, right? It fits neatly into a database. It's got a very clearly defined structure. It's easy to retrieve and analyze, and it's in a tabular format, right? And that's what we've got here represented on the left, right? Some nice clean tables. Unstructured data, as the name would imply, lacks a clear structure, right? It requires more complex storage as a result of that. It's more difficult to analyze. It requires advanced tools like AI, ML, natural language processing. If you're not super familiar with the unstructured data space, a term that you may have heard that is referenced a lot in this world is NoSQL databases, right? Data structures like MongoDB, or as you're used to in Domo, Domo's AppDB, right? So as you know these things in Domo, if we pretend that Domo is your data world, right? Your structured data is what we see here on the left, and it's the data sets that show up in the data center. Even if the data source, the data originally is largely unstructured, part of the secret sauce in our connector is that it parses that data out and gets it structured in a tabular format, right? Unstructured data is like what you'll find in AppDB, right? We refer to those as documents, and they can contain anything, right? You can push them down to a data set if you define a schema that you want to be associated with that, but those collections can house literally anything. So you may be thinking in the structured side, you oftentimes will have structured data sets that have unstructured data inside them, right? So that could be, and we'll show you some examples of that, but it could be that you have a column in a data set, and that column has got large blobs of text, right? That's got lots of meaning and insight inside of it, but not in a consistent way. So really common types of unstructured data, and we'll go through some of these, are, text, large chunks of text, right? Documents, emails, social media posts, web pages, notes that we might capture, whether it's, in a professional capacity, right, or what have you. And then multimedia, right? Images, photos, PDFs, audio. We'll show you some cool examples of audio files, video files. So these are all real common types of unstructured data. And we're going to show you how Domo is not only here to help you with what you've been used to doing with all your structured data and your data sets, but show you some really neat things that you can do with unstructured data. So let's do this. I'm going to, if I can figure it out, stop sharing that screen, and let's share out a different one here. This app always throws me off. Let's see. Give me just 1 second here. All right. I think that's it. Eddie, am I sharing the right one? There we go. Perfect. All right. So there's a couple of examples that I want to show you. One is a customer processing invoices, right? Information that they get from their vendors. Normally, I would show this to you in an embedded portal. Not gonna do that today. It adds a little bit of complexity that, frankly, I just wasn't up for. But I'm going to apply a filter here for Harmony Design Co. And we'll have a little bit of fun with these invoices. But this is an App Studio app that gets embedded inside of a portal. And in this portal, you've got standard Domo content here, historical payouts and whatnot, but you've got the ability to submit invoices, right? So as a vendor, I can come in here with some unstructured data, like this invoice for logo design. We'll go ahead and submit that. And we'll grab another one. We'll do an invoice for SaaS application mock. We will get those submitted. And now what I want to draw your attention to is if we come over here to invoice details, we can see our first one is already here. It shows up. It's AI approved for $448. Let's hit the refresh button here and see if our SaaS application mocks shows up. There it is. SaaS application mocks is here, is pending for $6,720. So those are invoices, they're images. I'll show you what they look like here. I'm going to jump to a different app where this is where an employee at said company goes to take action on those invoices. And we can see that we've got one here that's been reviewed by an AI. You can see it's determined that the amount's $448, vendor Harmony Design Co. And we can see an actual representation of the image there. So this is a human in the loop activity. One thing we'll realize with AI and some of these things, it's not always perfect. So in this case, we've got a period where things that have been approved by the AI based on the vendor status and the amount and the service it's for, whatnot, get auto approved. And if we sat on this one for, I think to make this demonstrable, we've got a 4-minute timer before that'll automatically get approved. This bigger one, $6,720 based on our business in the past with Harmony Design. This one's never going to be auto approved. So we need a human to come take action on that. But a very cool example of how we can take that unstructured data, right? That data that exists in that invoice, parse it out and present it as information to business users. So when we think about unstructured data and all the things you can do with it, right? Most people on here are probably fairly progressive. You've undoubtedly thrown some sort of an image at some sort of an AI. What I love about this is this solution was literally built in an afternoon. In fact, if we got time today, we'll build that bit together. But it was literally built in an afternoon. And when we think about extracting information from that unstructured data, Domo's AI tools and that platform is the perfect place to take that information and do something with it, right? In this case, we've got a human in the loop who's approving it, right? We're representing here that it was actioned by Dan Hendrickson and the invoice is processed. And we've got all sorts of things that we're doing downstream of the extrapolation of insight or information out of that unstructured data. So you think about, why Domo with my unstructured data? I love that example of all the things that we can do with the information we pull out of that data. One other example I'll share with you here is sentiment analysis, right? So we've got a little App Studio asset here where we can see our different, in this case, it looks like they're pharmacy locations in the greater Boston area. I can click on one of these and I can see different reviews, right? This comes in from Google Place connector, right? So when we talk about, I mentioned sometimes you'll have a structured data set, like this Google Place reviews data, where we've got, the reviewer and the date and the time. And then we've got this column that has the review. It's got this big blob, right? And why it's great to come in here and say, hey, this is pharmacy where I do most of my shopping. We can read all this thing. Think about CVS, Walgreens, right? These pharmacies get a lot of reviews. And what we're doing in this case is we're leveraging our integration with Jupyter And actually, this one leverages a Hugging Face model. So we'll talk about some of the different ways we can leverage that unstructured data in Domo. But you can see down here, we're extrapolating those reviews out to actionable insights in allowing folks to easily see, hey, what is the number of neutral reviews by brand or location? Disgust, joy, sadness, surprise, fear, anger. Right. So we're showing a distribution of what the sentiment of those reviews look like, right? So this makes it far more actionable for people that are managing these locations, right? To be able to quickly understand, hey, these people that mentioned fear, right? Let's drill into that and let's see, what was scary, right? Drive-through is never available. Horrible, right? I think the word horrible here oftentimes is inciting fear. But just an example of taking some of that unstructured data that you've got inside of your structured data and getting some value out of it there in sentiment analysis, right? So that's taking text. We talked about those types of unstructured data. It's taking text and it's summarizing that and taking a very specific set of instructions and providing some sentiment. And we'll talk about those instruction sets here in a few minutes. This CSR feedback, this is a pretty cool one, right? So this is a customer of ours that operates in the insurance space. And I learned more than I ever knew about the TCPA, which is the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Any of you in telemarketing are probably familiar with it. Came out sometime in the 90s, but apparently there's a whole series of questions that these representatives are supposed to ask the people when they get on the phone. They have to ask them in a certain order. They have to receive responses of a certain type. And this is a big compliance issue for companies that are making lots of calls. This particular customer is processing something like 200,000 calls a month. And so we're leveraging our JSON connector, right? I could walk you through the whole pipeline, but we're leveraging our JSON connector to fetch the call transcripts. We've got a data flow where we're parsing that out a little bit, right? We don't need to spend too much time on here, but we're parsing that into questions and answers based on the type of JSON we get back. It's got speaker 1, speaker 2, but we've got a very specific prompt that we are giving to the data, and the end result is this CSR feedback where these guys are able to easily see all the things they need to know. Hey, did the CSR answer the customer's questions, right? What was the tone of the CSR, right? Were they professional? Were they conversational? Unprofessional, right? Were they aggressive or humorous, right? What was the tone of the customer? It allows them to easily take those 100,000 calls, understand areas of risk, and know which calls that they need to go listen to, pay a little closer attention to, and what areas they've got of training, right? So here's where we're taking audio files, turning those into text files, taking those text files and asking for a very clear and specific set of instructions. And again, we'll show you some examples of how what you ask of the AI really has a big impact on what you get back from it. Last one I'll share with you. This is a cool little bit, and this is a good segue to the AI prompt. All of you that are Domo customers, you went through a discovery call, right, where somebody from our team had a conversation with you. One of the things that we're doing is leveraging our AI tools to help inform our sales team about your role, your business, your industry, and what's going on ahead of that discovery call. So here you can see we've got a data set that shows what meetings are coming up. Every morning, we've got a process that runs, and it takes this prompt and it feeds in this case, I don't read anything into this. I just chose it at random. But I said that I was meeting with the IT director at Costco, and that Costco's website is www.costco.com. Again, I just totally chose that at random. But you can see that I've given it a very specific prompt. I'm telling it that I want to have a good discovery conversation. It includes teaching the customer. And the end result of that is I get an email like this ahead of that call, and I'll come down here, and here's all the text that we get back, right? It's got really rich information about the company that I'm meeting with. It's got recent company news. Apparently, they showed strong growth year over year. They're opening, new warehouses. We've got some industry trends, value hypotheses, some really cool things that this historically was taking our team a lot of time to put together, and they trust but verify, but it does a good job of leveraging that unstructured data, right? Big chunks of text to make it actionable for our team. So those were the few examples or demonstrations that I wanted to walk you through. And now what I'd love for you to do is take a look at the AI playground, right? So in your Domo environment, we'll go, we'll just navigate out of there. If you hit this more button at the top, you can see we've got Domo AI. And if you're not familiar with it, this is Domo's AI services layer, right? So this is where you can put your different models. You can add different models. You can do all sorts of things here. This is where your Jupyter notebook lives and your AI projects. But what I want to draw your attention to is the playground, right? So the playground is very cool because you can toy around with this thing and you can see exactly what it's going to give you back. And it will show you how to incorporate that AI request into the different parts of the Domo platform, right? Domo apps, workflows, even external applications that you want to call into Domo. So I'm going to start with text generation, right? Here you can ask it anything, right? And we'll go through some examples. If you haven't got a lot of experience of interfacing with AI, hopefully this will be helpful. I'm going to ask it for what can you tell me about the book 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, right? We can run this thing, and we're going to see a Cody looking output of what I get from this text generation prompt, right? So you can see I gave it a prompt, and it's giving me my output here, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's a classic science fiction adventure novel written by French author Jules Verne. I don't know how to pronounce that. And it's got some information here for me, which is pretty cool, right? So we can see the output. There's a little bit of text formatting in there that shows up in here. I apologize about that. But again, down here in this code snippet bit, it'll show me how I can do this in Python, in R, inside of Jupyter, via curl command in a Domo app, right? So this will, you can actually copy this code and put it in different places, and you can see what the prompt looks like and what the response is going to be, right? So we'll go through an example here in a few minutes where we'll build a process out together to extract information from an invoice. I'm going to get you a link to where you can use one of those. But I want to demonstrate how our prompt can really change what we're getting here, right? If we look at this output, like that's helpful, right? I asked it what you can tell me about 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but maybe I want to be very specific, right? Like maybe I want to say, can you give me a CSV file that includes the author, publish date, and title for the book 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, right? So being more specific in our prompt, we can actually tell it, hey, I want a CSV. And now this thing replies with this rich output. Certainly, I can provide you with a CSV format for the book publication. It goes on. It's got a lot of content there, right? So give a lot of consideration to your prompts. Play around with it. I know we specifically wanted to talk a lot about images. That was the title of the webinar. So I'm going to bounce over to the image to text bit here, and we're going to play around with this. I've got, I'm going to grab that invoice for the SaaS application mock. You can see it right here. And let's go through some examples with this image as to how we can extract meaningful information from such an item, right? So if I just give it something generic, like give me the details of the invoice. Let's go ahead and hit run. It's going to give me a very likely verbose and informative output, right? So the output, Harmony Design, invoice number, it's got the information extracted there, right? Which is great. I can ask it for more specific information, right? Like, please tell me who the vendor and what the amount of this invoice is. Let's try that. Right. So when we talk, if you hear terms like prompt engineering, right, when we start to talk about that, now I've got a really clear output here. Vendor is New Harmony Design USA. This /n in code land, that gets just a new line, right? So it's displaying the raw code here, but on a new line, we've got amount $6,720. Right? It's pretty cool. It's quite helpful. But what if I want to do what I showed you earlier and have this thing actually show up as a row in my data set, right? This is where, again, we start to really think about the prompt. And I can say something like, please give me let's go for a CSV. CSV based on this invoice, where the CSV includes the vendor name, the invoice date, the due date, the quantity, the description, the rate, the tax, and the amount, right? Let's say I want to stick that in a nicely structured Domo data set, and that's the information I need. So you can see we've got a CSV, comma separated values, right? Vendor name, invoice date, due date, quantity, description, rate, tax, amount. And then on our new line, so right below it, which is what we'd have in our CSV, Harmony Design, January 29th, January 31, one SaaS application lock, $6,000, 720, $6,000, right? You can see it successfully extrapolated those amounts. Maybe I want to replace the amount with total amount, right? So I can do a little bit of noodling around here. I can validate it with other pieces of information, but the prompt that you feed into these things is really, really, really going to help you get much more meaningful information back. I'm going to pause here for half a second. Look at the chat here real quick. Okay, yep, looks like we've got most of those answered. Perfect. So here's what I want to do. If you all are up for it, I want us to build out a little solution together so that you can actually process one of these things. Eddie, do you have that link that you can share with these guys?
Absolutely. Headed your way.
So I'm going to put a link, or Eddie's going to put a link up here to OneDrive. You don't have to use this, right? This is just if you want to follow along exactly. This link that we're going to give you right there in OneDrive will allow you to download this exact invoice that we are looking at here. So feel free to grab that. And then what we're going to do is I'm actually going to go.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
Sorry, we did have a question come in about processing multiple images.
Yeah.
Is that something that's available here?
Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I'm not going to do that. I don't want to screw it up. But yes, processing multiple images. There's a number of ways that we can do it, right? If we look at that sentiment analysis, and we can talk about some other examples where we're processing it in batch, right? Those kind of longer running processes we do a lot of times in Jupyter. So that's a common one. The other thing that we do a lot is just process them via workflow, right? Create a looping process that will go through and handle as many images as you've got. You can also, one of the things that I was playing around with, I didn't quite figure out how to incorporate it in what we're doing today, is the ability to do things like this via app, right? So I don't know, let's take an image here. Please describe this photo. Here's an example doing it in an app, but all of these things can absolutely be done in bulk across lots of images. And Jupyter is probably, we'll give this just a second to update. There we go. Jupyter is probably the best way to handle bulk image processes. But I'd love to learn more about your use case there. Raquel asked about uploading PDFs. So right now, the image to text endpoint does not support PDFs. I'm told that we're working on that, but it is really easy programmatically to turn a PDF into an image. So if you do have a PDF in, like, for example, Domo's Files API, which is what we'll leverage in this example we're going to build together in just a second, you could very easily, via code, turn that PDF into an image and then process that image. So there's some nuance around PDFs that I don't entirely understand, but yeah, that's been the approach I've taken to handling PDFs to date. So Eddie, continue to interrupt if any other questions come in. But what I want to have you do is download that invoice, and I'm just gonna come here and I'm gonna create a web form, and we're gonna write some data to it, right? So in my web form, come on, what are we doing here? Domo, here we go. We'll call this unstructured data webinar. I'm just going to put that information that we want to get from that invoice here, right? I'm going to say, hey, what's the vendor? What is the due date? What is the invoice date? What is the amount? The quantity? The total amount? And the description.
Hey, Dan.
Right. Yo, yeah.
Before you get too deep into this, our good friend Daisy on the community comes to a lot of these sessions. So good to see you again, Daisy. I had a question here about assuming that all documents uploaded to Domo are encrypted.
Yeah, so Domo, the Files API, it's got its own set of permissions. They're private by default. Users can only access them if they're logged into your Domo environment. So yes, it follows all Domo's security stuff. I'm not a security expert, but
right.
But yeah, it's all secure.
Okay, so and then is there a place to clean up uploaded documents in Domo?
Oh, Daisy, I want to tell you so badly about an exciting new thing we've got coming, but I'm gonna make you wait 27 days.
Oh no,
there is a way
27 days.
There is a way to do it. Via the Files API, right? There's a handful of different ways. We've got those endpoints documented for how you can go delete those, but we've got some really exciting stuff coming on the unstructured data storage in Domo front that I think you'll like.
Cool. Keep your ears peeled.
I know you'll like.
I know nothing. I just know how many days are left. That's it.
Well, I didn't know that. So your contributions are invaluable. All right. So I just threw together a web form here. It's got my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns of data. And I just want to show you how quickly this thing comes together, right? So I'm gonna leave that tab open so I can come back to it. And I'm going to grab a new screen, and we'll do the solution really quickly via a workflow, right? I think it's going to be our lowest barrier to entry here, but I'm going to just create a new blank workflow, and we'll call this unstructured data processing and logging. You can call it whatever you want to, but I'm just going to hit this general start, and I'm going to create a very simple form here. Again, I'm going to title it Unstructured Data Processing. And the only question I'm going to put on here is, please upload your file. And I'm going to have the file type be attachment. I'm going to make it required. And I'm going to go ahead and, if we preview this, pretty simple form, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Right. So now I've got a workflow. It's got a start form, and it's going to give me this start parameter, which is that attachment's file ID in Domo's Files API. Right. So I will actually, just because I'm a little bit neurotic about this stuff, I'm going to rename that variable to file ID. But that's what I'm going to get back from when I upload that attachment is the file ID. So that means that that file via the workflow, it's now in the Domo ecosystem, right? And look how easy this is. I'm going to add a step here, and I'm just going to search for image. You can see Domo AI service layer, image to text. We've got an input, we've got a file ID, and it's going to give us back some extracted text. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add that automation. And for my input, I'm going to go back to that prompt that I just talked about, right? So I'm going to say something like, can you please create a CSV for me that includes data from this invoice? The data points that I want are, let's make sure I get them in the right order. Vendor, due date, invoice date, or vendor, due date, invoice date, amount, quantity, total amount, and description. Please only include the data, not the header row, right? Because I've already got that. And also, instead of doing a comma separated list, please have it be pipe delimited. There we go. And I'll show you why here in just a second. So that'll be our prompt. And if I want to test this thing, right, I'm going to go ahead and copy that prompt. I'm going to go over here to our AI playground just for fun. And we'll make sure that in my hastiness here, I'm not asking it to do something nonsensical. Let's grab our image again. Let's see. Where was that thing? Bear with me 1 second. OneDrive. Invoice. Here we go. SaaS application model. Okay. Go ahead and run it. Let's make sure that it'll give me back what I want. So, yep, I've got a list here, and it is pipe delimited. Looks like it worked perfectly, right? So that prompt should work out wonderfully. So I'm going to take that extracted text, and what I want to do is I just want to write that to a data set, right? So I'm going to search for append. So we're going to append to a data set. We are going to append it to the unstructured data webinar data set. The delimiter that I want to use here is a pipe, right? I don't know if the reason why I went with a pipe delimiter is I don't know if there may be commas that exist inside that data. There's not likely to be pipes. I could go with something more wild like a triple pipe or double percents or something weird. But for the values, I'm going to pass extracted text. And I'm going to create a variable and map that response. And then I'm just going to end, right? We're just going to end our process right here. We'll just call this workflow complete. So it's literally that easy, right? To create a very basic process of ingesting this information. I'm going to go ahead and hit deploy. And now that our workflow's out there, I could drop it in an App Studio app or do whatever. I'm just going to hit play from right here. You can see my form. I'm going to choose a file. I'm going to go with the that same invoice SaaS application mock. Let's just real quickly, for dramatic effect here, let's go to our data sets. We can see it's got 7 columns and no rows. Let's run this thing. All right, workflow started. Let's give it just a second. And we should see, hey, there we go. We'll see, we did it right. Boom, Harmony Design Code, January 31st, January 29th, 6,000. We've got our data there. So literally we did that with, I wish I could say that I'd taken a bunch of time to prepare a very thoughtful thing that we could do together. It went so far as that hold music was playing, me to get that OneDrive link to Eddie. But it's pretty cool. It's super easy. So again, lots of ways that we can handle that. Play around with things in the playgrounds, right? When we think about unstructured data, we think about Domo. What are you going to do with that unstructured data, right? Our AI tools are purpose-built for exactly this, right? We can allow you to do all sorts of things with that unstructured data once you've got it in there, right? If we go back to just real quickly this example of the invoice review, right? We've got humans in the loop that are reviewing it, and we're making decisions on what we want to do with that invoice based on the amount and that vendor's tier and all sorts of things like that, right? So that's the beauty of what the Domo platform can bring as it relates to this unstructured data. And I got to tell you, those are the examples that I had that were there and easily demonstrable for you guys. But there's so many, right? We've talked to things like grocers looking at snapshots of surveillance footage inside their stores to see when there's a long line at the checkout, right? Or different events, understanding where crowds are congregating. Maintenance companies looking at a parking lot to see if there's cars there or they can go work on it or not, right? Understanding how many people have entered a space. There's so many different things that you can do with that unstructured data and images and a ton of value that you can get out of it. And then again, unstructured data in text, right? Understanding things like sentiment. Are our people looking at call transcripts, right? Another really cool one that we leverage here internally is we record all of our calls with Gong. And if I'm going to hop on a call with one of you, it's a highlight of my day when I get to get on with somebody. It's hard for me to always have the context around what's going on. So we are importing those Gong call transcripts and doing summarizations. And so I can quickly see an AI summary of our last 120 days of our partnership, Domo and our customer. I can see all the calls that have taken place in that time period and a quick summarization of them. And if I want to, I can click through, I can see the whole transcript and even listen to the call. So many different cool things, like that we're doing with the unstructured data. I'm excited to see all the value that you can get out of it. But when we talk about kind of wrapping up and what's next, there's a couple of things that I wanted to plug really quick. You've seen Eddie talk about ACE, that advanced customer enablement thing. One thing that I'll say, and I'm not.
Hey, Dan.
Not much of a yo.
Sorry, we had a question pop up here. I wanted to get to it before we talk.
Oh,
I knew you were. I felt you were wrapping up on me, so I wanted to get the question really quick. Does image quality interfere with data accuracy at all during this?
Yeah, it absolutely does. But I'll tell you, I don't think I've got it here to where I can show you. But the use case that generated that AI invoice processing one was from a customer where they're I forget what they called them, but it was essentially an invoice, but it was the manufacturing facility would show the distribution facility, everything that they made. And they had these files that had been passed around a machine shop, right? Oftentimes they would have like a date would be crossed out and written in with a pen, or A work order number would have a -1 added to the end. One had a big coffee stain on it. And I was blown away at how accurate the system was at extracting information out of there. And that one even had like summary level information at the top. It had a couple of different tables, and we were asking a lot of it. So yes, image quality does affect it, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with what our tooling can do with, call them, low resolution or damaged images.
Sure.
Coleman says around the world a few times, and
yeah, he needs a workflows boot camp. This is a good transition, right? I think you were kind of getting to this before I rudely interrupted.
Oh, you're great.
A lot of folks kind of are jumping on these ACE, what we call ACE, Advanced Customer Enablement hands-on sessions, and they're walking away either blown away or tons of use cases for the things that we're showing. How do they get more people involved? What's the next step for them? And I'd love for you to speak to some of that, because I do think that folks that are jumping on these are getting a lot out of it, but there's this other level, right? There are ways that you and your team are interacting with them that creates so much more engagement and buy-in, and using some of these really cool situational use cases that you've been showing us over the next couple of weeks. So I'll get out of the way and let you talk, but my marketing brain always runs to, hey, what else do people need to know about what happens in your department and what they do?
Totally. And Eric, I see your question, and I'm going to get to it, but yeah. So Eddie, where I was going with that, I'm not a big self promoter. I probably need to do a better job at that. But we've got this ACE thing, right? This advanced customer enablement. If you haven't heard about it, talk to your account team. What we're doing is we've got in this new capacity, I've talked to you as a lot of different roles here at Domo, but as a director of product enablement, I love that I'm involved in helping all of our customers like you guys, and not only in these community situations, but one-on-one, right? So these advanced customer enablement packages can get you assigned a block of time every quarter that you get to spend hands-on keyboard, with me, with Riley, with Greg, with members of the team, helping you do exactly what you want to do in your Domo instance. So while I love these community sessions and I show you generic examples and hope you can draw parallels to what you're doing, all of my ACE customers, all of you that are already in the program, we've got a bunch of you. I'm excited to tie this into exactly what you're doing, but know that we do have that program where we can hop on hands-on keyboard with you one-on-one. And Eric, your question, not sure about use case, but what about pictures for example products? We could totally build that out together. And that's one that we've done a bunch, right? I actually helped a customer where they had these product images and they were asking for rich descriptions that were between a certain character count that met all these different parameters that they wanted for search results online, right? So you can absolutely handle images. That one that I used in the app was a picture of a kid sitting in an old car, right? And it estimated what year the car was and told all about the setting. And so, yeah, doing things like descriptions, and I even, I've played around with it and asked it like, hey, how many people are in this photo, right? And it was a picture of a group of people at the end of a hike. There's all sorts of different things that you can do, but yes, product descriptions, all sorts of different things like that you can do with that, Eric. But yeah, I just wanted to put that plug in for ACE on the Workflows Bootcamp. Coleman, I'll pick on you a little bit. You're across the street, man. You can come over. If I was on the other side of the building, I think I'd see your office out the window. But for those of you that aren't as convenient, we are doing. We've got our Getting Started with Workflows session or class. I'm sorry, at learndomo.domo.com. Take that thing. We've got pre-con training at Domopalooza on workflows. I would lean into them. I know that I was the workflows guy for a minute, but they really do unlock a lot of this stuff. Coleman doesn't have a badge yet. He says. Well, I'll see what I can do to help with that. But if you haven't heard about ACE, check it out with your account team. I would love me and the team to work with you all hands-on, one-on-one. I know you get a lot of value out of these, and I appreciate all the kind notes and the thank yous that I get. But so much more fun to do it one-on-one, hands-on, and we've got that available now. So Reach out to your account team, hit them up, find out about that. And Eddie, I think I said my piece.
Okay. Ready to wrap up. Let's be honest, Daisy, my name should be removed from this post as soon as possible. Kunal, same. Keep my name out your mouth. This is all Dan and his team. I just show up, put a smile on my face, introduce their team, and let them share all of the goodness that they have. So thank you to everyone for joining us. We will be announcing our next one. Check on the community forums. Obviously, we throw these on socials. As soon as it's posted, it gets blasted everywhere. If you are like me, for jumping on and watching some of these how-tos and you have missed a step, or it got to be too much, or you had to step away, the recording is all available right here where you found the previous recording. And you can see all of the ACE Advanced Customer Enablement hands-on sessions. They may go by Domo hands-on, or they may go by what was formerly known as TAP. They're a little like Prince over there in their team. So you may see them announced as a technical adoption program team, TAP, on the community's forums as well. If you go to there, you check out the events section. On the past events, you'll see those recording links available for you to jump in. Thanks everybody for joining. Dan, this is a great session, man. We had tons of people from all across the world joining today. And
real quick, too, I just wanted to say I appreciate all the love you guys give me. I'd be remiss if I didn't say all I get to do is pass along the good work that all of our amazing engineers do. And with Domopalooza around the corner, if you guys are coming, come find me. I'd love to introduce you to some of those folks, and they would love to hear from you about all the amazing things that you're doing with it. We got a super talented team of engineers, and I just am fortunate enough to get to be the mouthpiece that gets to push some of it out to the world. So appreciate the love, and I'll make sure that that engineering and all the right folks hear about it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Come find us at Domopalooza, 27 days. So
I'll be there.
We may or may not have a session before now in Domopalooza, because obviously our teams are working on a lot.
We are going to get a calendar together, though.
We are.
It's on my to-do list.
And if you are excited about all of these things, come find us, come talk to us about it. It allows us to kind of then go to our bosses and say, look, these are helping. Let's continue to do them. And we can dedicate our time to them, which we absolutely love to do there. So we'll see everybody at DP, hopefully in 27 days. Until next time, I'm Eddie Small, Director of Community. That's Dan Hendrickson. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will catch you on the next Advanced Customer Enablement hands-on session.